It's recording. Oh, now it's recording. I'm from the planet Earth. I'm gonna have my husband edit that out. I'm gonna start over. Hi everyone. This is Sarah, me. I am Sarah from The Knitting Type. Thank you for watching my YouTube video. This is episode 2. 1, 2. I recorded the other week, and so today is Sunday, March 6th, and I am recording again, and I only really want to record every 2 weeks or post every 2 weeks, but I had 2 pretty big events happen this week, and I wanted to share them in a timely manner, so instead of waiting another week, I decided to record this week. So yes, today is Sunday, March 6th. I am known as the Knitting Type on Ravelry, Instagram, Blogger, where else? YouTube, and on Etsy. I think I only have a couple things in my Etsy shop right now, but I do have an Etsy shop. So I have my notes over here, so you're going to see me look over here a lot. I was trying to figure out, like, where can I prop them up so that I can read them? I'm sorry if that's really loud, but that they won't be in the way. So here they are. So I'm just going to put them right here. I'm going to try not to look at myself in the laptop because it would make more sense if I looked at the camera. I'm using a different camera this time. Last week I used an iPad, and this week I'm using some sort of Logitech camera device that my husband set up for me. So yes, I can be found on all those locations as The Knitting Type, but my actual name is Sarah. I wanted to start this episode out with some thank yous. I was kind of overwhelmed. Better to be over than under, huh? I was overwhelmed with the amount of views that I got, which was just really, really nice. I mean, after the first night of putting it up, the video up, I had one person not only view but subscribe. So that was very, very exciting. And her name was Marissa. Hi, Marissa. And she is known as the QTT Knit Crochet on Instagram. She has some pretty cute stuff. And I'm going to send her a special thank you gift. So, Marissa, that is going to be in the mail on Monday. And I ended the week with around 54 subs, I think the last time I checked. And I haven't looked at the views. And I made so many new friends or met new people on Instagram this week. And that was the whole point of starting the YouTube video, was to meet more knitters. And if people like my photos on Instagram, then I'm curious about who they are, and I go and check out what's on their Instagram feed and what they're making and get pattern ideas. And it can be a little overwhelming, all the social media that kind of bombards us in this crazy modern time. But at the same time, it's such an excellent resource, the internet or all the different social media platforms, for knitters to find new patterns and new yarns and meet people internationally and just get to know one another. So it was very exciting this week to kind of open my scope up even more and meet more new people from all different places. I had some people friend me on Ravelry or subscribe that were from the United Kingdom, and I think a woman from Chile, and several Canadians, which is so exciting because much like Chelsea and Sue from Legacy Knits, I too want to be an honorary Canadian. My mom is currently dating a Canadian man, and so I'd like to think, if needed, I have like an access card by association of knowing him into Canada. But apparently he's from way up in Canada that's like, it gets to be 30 below or something crazy temperatures I've never felt. And I live in Colorado where it can get like 17 below. So, um, let's see. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to mention about Marissa, the QTT knit crochet woman, who was my first sub, on her Instagram description, she writes, you know, a little description about herself, and she ends it with happy, peaceful, positive. And I thought, what an excellent way to describe knitting. I feel positive when I'm knitting, I feel peaceful, and I feel happy. And isn't that what we all want? And I loved that about her description. I don't think my description says anything but like, I knit. So, oh, and thank you to everybody who joined my Ravelry group. I have a Ravelry group that is the Knitting Type podcast on Ravelry. And so if you want to come and join, we have a couple members, and I do put all my show notes there, as well as I have a little introduction thread where you can introduce yourself. And yeah, so thank you for all who joined this week. And if you're interested, please look it up and join. So I'm going to give some love to some podcasts. Shannon, or not love, but thank yous and love. Oh, look at this. What is this thing? Nope. Oh, new camera. What am I doing? I have a hair out of place. Oh. Okay. Anyway, this is going to just bother me. Where are you going? Where are you going? There you are. Get down. It's going rogue. Okay. So, two podcasters that gave me a shout out this week, and it was so nice. And that was Lisa from the Fiber Nymph, who dyes her own yarn, and she just gave me the sweetest shout out on her podcast. It was so thoughtful, and I think she called me quirky or stream of consciousness in how I talk or something, which I guess is true. But it was just it was so nice to hear, you know, strangers that are strangers no more say nice things about you. And then Shannon from Socksetra, she also mentioned me in her podcast this week, and that was phenomenal. You know, I feel like she's getting really popular, and as she should. She's so funny and has such a good heart, is what I would say about her. She touches on topics that are sometimes uncomfortable for people, and presents them in such a warm and welcoming, non-judgmental way that I don't know, you just kind of want to be around her. It's nice to have her in your living room on your iPad or laptop or however you're watching your YouTube videos, and she's just lovely. So those are my thank yous, and I'm trying to keep this to 30 minutes. So I'm gonna kind of try to not fly through, but keep an eye on the clock, not go as long as I went last week, and just keep the timing down. So I'm already going to move on to finish objects. Ooh, but not before I introduce my co-hosts. They have changed their outfits, as well as we have changed our location. This is my office, which is downstairs, so you might see some ground level stuff right here. I live in a bi-level house, so my office is downstairs, and you can kind of see out into the backyard there. And so they decided to change because they've come downstairs. So over here we have Lorraine, the shy one, and she is wearing Hannah Fettig's featherweight cardigan. Sadly, this cardigan has moth holes in the back. I knit this on my honeymoon out of Malabrigo lace weight. I don't even know what. It was like 5-6 years ago. But it was a kit. Hannah Fettig was doing a kit about 5 years ago, and I bought the kit and I took it on my honeymoon and I knit it. And back in Baltimore, where I'm from originally, we had moths in our closets. And not only did they eat one of my cashmere scarves from Scotland, but they ate this bad boy in the back, and it is just beyond repair. I think any repairs would look silly, and I don't even have the yarn anymore. And then so over here we have Bernadette, and Bernadette is wearing another Hannah Fettig sweater, and that is the Rocky Coast cardigan. And I knit this out of Blue Sky cotton. So Blue Sky is the yarn company, and I knitted out of cotton, which was probably the stupidest thing I could have done. I wanted something lightweight, but also warm to wear to wine country when I went to California 2 years ago, and I knit it way too big. I wanted it to be really long and go over my derriere, and I thought it kept needing to be longer and longer, and I'm 5'4", so I made it way too long. And the yarn that I used is actually really heavy and caused me to sweat, and it pilled a lot in just trying to block it. So I think I've worn it once, but I did take it all the way to California. But anyway, Bernadette really likes it. It looks pretty good on her. And so that's Bernadette and Lorraine are joining me today. Hey, ladies. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to finished objects, which is what I'm wearing. So in my last podcast, I talked about that I joined the 3-color cashmere train. So everybody that was making those, I made one as well, and I chose my colors were navy blue, or what is called soot. I forget what this one is called, but it's basically ivory. Oh, I think it is called ivory. And then this was called brass, and they're all by I have the label right here. It's this company, Shubai. And I finished it. It took actually 2 weeks to finish because my last video was posted a week after I recorded it. So I haven't quite figured out how to wear it yet, but these are the various layers of it, and I just love it. I think it's great. I really messed up the lace. The pattern does not follow what it was supposed to, but I tried to do it 2 or 3 times. I ripped the lace out and redid it. And on the last one, I was like, you know what? Forget it. Lace can look like a pattern, or it could just be messy, and no one might even notice that it doesn't follow the pattern. So I just tied in the ends on this morning while watching the O-Loops girls, and I have not blocked it yet. And I will let you in on the secret that I'm a little scared to block it because I have the ivory butted up against this dark navy blue, and I'm terrified it's going to bleed. I've talked to other people who have used this yarn who have said they've never had a bleeding problem, and then I know there's some sort of citric acid thing that you can do, a treatment, but I've never done that either. So what I think I'm going to do is knit up a swatch with my extras, and I'm going to try to soak and block that and see how it see if it bleeds at all. So it shouldn't. This is my only FO though. I've been working hardcore on this for 2 weeks to get it all done because I want to take it on a trip at the end of the month. So I can move on to hose and whips. And if you're not familiar with what those are, if you're not really a knitter and you just stumbled into the blogosphere onto the podcast YouTube sphere and stumbled onto my podcast, I will tell you a hoe, which I think was coined by Legacy Knits, Chelsea and Sue again, is a half-finished object, or it's also known as a whip, which is a work in progress. So mine are, I joined KT from Inside Number 23's Knit Along for the Harry Potter Knit Along, and I am, come here little needle, I am knitting Hermione's Everyday Socks. Doo-doo-doo. Isn't that knitting up pretty? Can you see that? There we go. So this is being knit out of my leftover Fable Fibers yarn that I used on my Atwood shawl. I love the color. It's like a pink to me, but they call it Lucky Penny. I don't see that much copper in it, but I do see a little kind of rusty gray color, like an old penny. So, but I think it's just knitting up so lovely. And I just started this last night. I cast it on while watching Lizzie Borden, the movie with Christina Ricci. And the movie was really good and scary. And this just went right through it. So I'm excited to keep working on that tonight. And I might do a second Harry Potter sock if I have time. I believe KT's knit along goes March 1st through April 30th, because I know there are people that are making Weasley sweaters and all kinds of other Harry Potter shawls. But I decided to start with socks and see how far I could get with that and see if I had more time. I do have this killer idea for a Weasley sweater. I'm not even going to talk about it because I'd rather cast it on and be like, look what I did, rather than talk about it and then never do anything. So yes, the next thing that I'm working on is another 3-color cashmere cowl. Cowl. So this one is out of the Sweet Georgia's cashmere luxe yarn, and it's going to be in a watermelon colorway, and so I'm just on the green part. I just started. And that's all I have. Well, that's not true. I showed a bunch of my hose and whips in my first episode, which there was like a plethora of them, but these are the 2 that I started this week that I'll probably get done before any of the other ones that I already showed. One from last week that I showed, though, that I said I would mention what the pattern and the yarn were, was this scarf that I'd started for myself a couple years ago. And so I am going to stick to that, and I actually have the pattern right here, and it is the Paloma scarf by in the Debbie Bliss Paloma yarn, I believe. So it's the Paloma scarf, 4 hanks of Debbie Bliss Paloma. And it doesn't say what that is made out of, but whatever it is squishy and delightful. So, and you use size 9 needles on that. So I can't wait until my little pink scarf looks like this one. Hopefully I'll look happier to wear it than this girl. She's lovely. I'm sure she was just, maybe she was cold. Okay, so on to page 2, and I'm at 17 minutes, so I'm doing really good. Okay, I'm going to take a sip of tea. It's some sort of harvest apple spicy tea. It would be perfect in October, but it tastes really good today too. Okay, on to a section that I'm going to call Knitters in the Wild, or sightings. So I had 2 things that I planned to go to this week. One was a book signing, and the other one was a trunk show. So the first one I went to was Susan B. Anderson's book signing. That's right. I met my knitting idol, Susan B. Anderson, and I'm going to insert some photos probably at the end. I'll do a little montage of meeting her. She is the sweetest, most genuine, most wonderful knitter I've ever met. I don't even want to say most wonderful knitter because everybody's wonderful, but man, she was on my bucket list, and it was just so exciting. I was a little bit of a dork about it. I was there half an hour early before anybody else showed up, and then I remember standing in a place that was by the table where she was going to be, and she was about 10 feet from me, and I turned to my husband, who so kindly went with me and took pictures, and I turned to him and I said, "Is this it? Am I in line? Am I first? Am I early? Are we starting? Can I go?" And so thankfully I did not scare her off, and she let me just take my time and tell her everything that I wanted to tell her, that which was so nice, because she just didn't make me feel like she needed to rush on to the next person and sign their stuff. It was like she had all the time in the world and she was so happy that I was there. And it just, she's one of those people where when you meet her, it feels, she makes you feel like you've known her forever. So, so the thing that I took for her to sign and to see was I took two of her books, which I'll show you in a minute, but I took her my sheep. This is Morris Murphy. Say, hello, everybody. I look kind of crooked, but I'm not. I don't know why he looks so crooked. He's like the happiest looking sheep ever. And I knit him on my honeymoon. Well, I finished him the first night of my honeymoon. I was in Cork, Ireland with my husband. And I was like, you don't mind, do you? And so our exciting first night of our honeymoon, I was in the B&B finishing this little guy, putting his face on and everything so that I could carry him around the rest of Ireland with me, and we would pose him in certain locations, and then we would literally get down on the ground. Like there's this one shot of him in front of a big cathedral, and I put him in front of the cathedral, and then I got down on the ground with the camera and shot up at the cathedral to make it look like he was looking up at the cathedral, and then I blogged about it. And so I just wanted her to meet him and for him to meet her since she created the pattern. And his pattern is actually out of this Spud and Chloe at the Farm book, and she signed it for me. Do you want to know what she said? She said, "Hi, Sarah. I loved meeting your honeymoon sheep. Happy knitting, Susan B. Anderson." Personalized. Love it. Love her. And then my next toy that I'm going to knit is this giraffe. And so she signed this one also and said, "Happy toy knitting." And she drew a little sheep, or a bunny. She drew a little bunny. Isn't that cute? Just the time that she takes. And she had these little labels that if you didn't bring a book, she had like a sticker label that she would sign so that you could go home and put it in the book that you didn't bring. And so I should say she was doing a book signing at a Denver craft store called Fancy Tiger Crafts, and it was to promote her new book, which is Kids Knitting Workshop. And I did not buy the book there. I'm not sure that I will because I don't have kids, or like I just don't have kids in my life really. So maybe when a couple kids that I do know now get a little bit older, it would be a perfect book for them. But most of the kids I know are like below age 5. So that was on Tuesday, March 1st. I got to meet her. And then on Friday, I drove down to Louisville, which I thought was about an hour from my house. But I was actually going from work, which is 20 minutes south of my house. So it actually took about an hour and 20 minutes probably to get there. Totally worth it because it's still local, meaning in my state. And it was Hugh Loco's trunk show, and that is Nicole Clark. She has a video podcast as well, and she's a local dyer as well as a project bag maker. And I had been eyeing up her yarn on her website, which I believe is hughloco.com. And I'd been really wanting to knit with some of it, but I didn't want to pay for the shipping because she is so close that I thought, well, that's silly to spend, $6 on shipping when I could spend $6 on yarn or towards yarn. So for me, it was worth it to drive all the way down there, and I got to meet her in person, which I did actually run into her at Susan B. Anderson's book signing on Tuesday night. But I got to see her again and wish her well and go support a local knitter and a local yarn dyer. And so that was really great. And moving on to acquisitions. I should say that her trunk show was at Finger Play Studio in Louisville, which is just the most adorable town. It reminded me actually of Annapolis, or like a water town on the Eastern Shore, except for there was no water around, but it just seemed very nestled and quaint. So I actually bought 4 of her yarns, but one's for a gift. So I'll just show you the 3 that I got for me. And so I got one of her tweed sock yarns in this beautiful, it's like a purple blue color, that kind of blue that is so There we go. That's a good picture of it. It's so blue it looks purple. It really just depends on what you're wearing. And so this colorway is Jazz Hands, and the tweed sock yarn is 85% superwash merino and 15% nylon, and it is a fingering weight. And there are 438 yards in this. So I plan on using this to make some of my socks for Kristen of Woolen Vine's Boxo Socks Cow. And then I got this one, which is in her glitz base. So there's some stellina in there. Ooh, sparkles. Come on. Doo, doo, doo. Focus. Too close? It doesn't want to focus. Focus, focus, focus. Focus, focus. This colorway is called Stardust, and it has just some really great blues in it. I wish it would really focus so that you could see all the different colors. Ooh, I can't get the camera to behave. Anyway, it has tans and blues and light blues and some purples, which you can kind of see in there. Just beautiful. And then the last one I got was another tweed sock, and this color is called Spring Rain. So let's see. There we go. Spring Rain. And it again, it's the tweed sock. Oh, I should say this. No, you're still not going to do it. Come on. Is it the stellina you don't like? Anyway, this is 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 5% stellina in the Stardust color. So these are the three that I bought. I love them. I'm so super excited. This I thought I was going to do the blueberry waffle socks in because it has like blue and brown, so it's like blueberry waffles, but I don't know, I just love the sparkle, and now I'm thinking maybe it'll be a shawl. Okay, and so my last acquisition, that was it for the events, the Knitters in the Wild or sightings, which led into my acquisitions. And actually I have a couple more of acquisitions. Last week was a very indulgent week. So I got some hedgehog fibers. Yay! Oh, and look at this color. This is called Dragonfly. And I think it's just so... Did that do it? Ooh, this is hard. This is, I didn't know I could get this. And I talked last week about how my local yarn store, my sister knits, was getting hedgehog fibers. And so last weekend I went down there and I snatched some off the counter or the basket. And so now I'm thinking maybe this will be blueberry socks, because blueberry waffle socks, because of the dark browns, like toasted waffles and all the blueberry coloring in it. I just think that would be so pretty. So this is, let's see, 90% superwash, 10% nylon, and it's made in Ireland. Just like me. No, I wasn't made in Ireland. I'm part Irish, but not made in Ireland, so unfortunately. Okay, and then, so I ordered some yarn from from a feels local, because I watched them in my living room, but from another podcaster. And that was from Adelaide's Cottage. And so I got some of her minis. I put them in this little jar. But how beautiful are these? I can't wait. I haven't decided if I'll do, that's perfect, if I'll do a mitered square blanket or not. But she sent these, which are bound with this little silk ribbon, and just so pretty. I wish I knew what the colorways were, but they're not on the receipt. So, and then she also included this cute little packet of teas, and it just for cuz, just to be nice, which was so nice. And so, I don't know what I'll do with those, but I'm excited to use them. So, yeah, so that was from Adelaide's Cottage. Okay, and then the last thing that I got this week were two books that a lot of people are talking about. I know Mina mentioned them, and so did, I think her name's Shauna from Adelaide's Cottage. I should double check on that. I'm sorry if that's not your name. So I know she's talked about this a lot, and since I'm fairly new to sock knitting, I thought this book would probably be really helpful, and that is the Ann Budd's Getting Started Knitting Socks book. And I've only read a couple of things so far, but it's true what both, or no, maybe, no, Mina couldn't have gotten this. She's like a sock wizard. Maybe it was just Shauna from Adelaide's Cottage. But I thought I'm still fairly new to sock knitting, so this should be really, really helpful. So I just started reading it yesterday. I don't have too much to say about it yet, other than it, if you're a visual person, it has a ton of photos, and it pretty much hits on in just the quick flip through that I did every knitting error I've made so far. It showed the two different kinds of heels I've put on socks, one that I thought was an error, but it turns out it's just a different technique. And it talks about the sock gusset hole. So when you're getting a heel, when you're turning the heel and you get a hole, it talks about why that happens and how to correct it. So for me, that was golden. And she also talks about how you can use any type of yarn and how to change your gauge, how to measure your foot, all kinds of great information. And the second book I got this week for acquisitions was the Quilt as You Go Made Modern book. And I know that Shauna from Adelaide's Cottage talked about this one, and I have started quilting. I started about a year and a half ago, and I say that I've started quilting because while I have made many tops of quilts, I have yet to quilt them to the actual batting, because that has to be the most terrifying part to me. I don't know why. That wouldn't be easy to rip out, and free motion quilting seems very intuitive if you know how to do it, and I don't. And I feel like I'm a little too controlling or like instruction too much to feel comfortable doing that. So I thought maybe this would be a really great way to go about it so that it's quilted as I go and there's less angst when it comes to finally putting the quilt top fully together with the batting. And I flipped through a couple pages of this and have gotten so many ideas that I can't wait to get started on it. And once I do, I'll definitely show you what I've made. I'll probably also be featuring some of my quilt tops, or if they ever get quilted quilts, on the podcast as well, just to show them, to get ideas, just to share. So let's see. I am at 32 minutes and I only have like 5 more minutes of information. So I'm going to take that as a win. Let's see. Announcements. I made mini skeins. One of my goals last week was to make mini skeins, and I had leftover sock yarn from the 2 pairs of socks that I featured on my show last week, as well as some leftover yarn from my wine country socks that I made last summer. And so I made them. Look at these lovelies. Ooh. So these are the Lorna's Laces sock shepherd or shepherd sock in the Serenity Summer and the Verve color. And then this is Biscotti, and I don't know what the colorway is. I have it sitting somewhere, but I don't know what it is. So I only have a couple of these. As you'll probably know, if you make socks, you usually only get 2 or 3 probably little mini skeins out of them. And these are 10 grams each. So what I would like to do is see if anybody would like to do a mini skein swap. So I probably have 2 or 3 sets to send out, or so if there are 2 or 3 people that would like to do a mini skein swap and send them, I would love that, and I would put them together with my growing mini skein jar and I don't know, make something out of them. I don't know what, but make something. So if you are interested, please get in touch with me, either leave a comment or reach out on Ravelry or Instagram. There's a way to message on there too. Okay, and so the last thing that I'm going to talk about is my final question. My final question last week was, where's the weirdest place you have knit? And I said the weirdest place I had knit that week was in the dentist office. And I have to admit that I cracked up a little when I read some of the responses of where the weirdest place people knit was. One knitter wrote to me, and I'm not going to share all the details, even though she put it on Ravelry in a thread, so maybe I could, but I didn't ask her, so I don't want to. But she was at a doctor's office in having a procedure done, I don't know what, and was knitting during the procedure. Like, so clearly she wasn't, what's that called? When they give you something to make you feel or not feel anything, sedated. She wasn't sedated in any way, and she was knitting during the procedure, which I thought, that takes some knitting guts, right? That takes some yarn balls to knit during a procedure. So good for her. I have to say that one wins, absolutely, because I actually tried to put my knitting away right before my procedure at the dentist, and I don't think I could have knit while the dentist was doing anything. So this week's question is, what is your most worn knit? What is the thing that you have knit that you love so much, you wear it most often, or you get excited every winter to pull it out, and it's so loved, and maybe the color has changed? If you want to just leave that comment in the show notes thread that I'll put on Ravelry, I'd love to hear about it, and I'll share mine with you now. I knit these almost 6 years ago, so 5.5, 6 years ago. And these are the Cupcake Mittlets by Shantha Ramachandran. And the pattern can be found on Ravelry. And they are knit out of Sheep Shop Yarn Company in Sheep 3 yarn, which is a sport weight, 70% wool, 30% silk yarn. And I could not tell you what I knit them on, but I'll share the project in the Ravelry group for easier access. But if you go to the Knitting Type and you look at my profile, you will see these on there. And the needle size I used might be listed, but I think I put these on every year. They're like a greenish yellow variegated color. And the best thing about this yarn, or this project in general, is the memory that I have associated with it. And that is, for my 30th birthday, one of my very best friends, Emily, gave me this ball of yarn, which she had hand wound into a ball from a hank of yarn. And she had wrapped prizes in, like gifts, inside of the yarn ball. So as I was knitting and as I was making these cute little mittlets, presents kept falling out, and I love that. I'm someone who loves, like, when lots of little presents are inside of a box and they're all individually wrapped, and I don't know why, but rather than one big thing, I like a bunch of little things, and it's like it keeps going. So I rushed through knitting these. It's probably one of the fastest things I've ever knit, because as this yarn ball is unwinding, Philosophy lip gloss is falling out. Little jelly bracelets are falling out. I think there were some stitch markers that fell out of the yarn ball, and in the end was like a $20 bill for more yarn. And I still have some of this yarn left over. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Maybe I could knit socks, but it's just one of my favorite memories. So every winter when I whip these out, I think of all the effort my dear friend put into making that yarn gift ball for me, and how exciting it was to make these mittens. And they really fit my hand perfect, and they've worn so well. They're very, very loved. Not sure if you can see how much the yarn has worn at the tops there. But that is my most worn and probably most loved knit. And that's it for this week. I got 40 minutes. So that's basically 30 minutes down from last week. I'm pretty impressed with myself. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you watched, thank you for, if you even considered watching. If you're not watching it now, that's fine. And thank you for coming back, and thank you for friending me, and thank you for including me in your knitting world. I really appreciate it. I will see you guys in a week or two. Bye. Okay, and then, oh, I should wait. I'll wait. That one I just started yesterday. I knit my own, or I don't knit, I make my own project bags and notions pouches and stuff like that. So I knit this one. I thought this was this fabric's so stinking cute because of the glasses, because I wear glasses. I also wear contacts, but, foxes with glasses is adorable.